And we're live. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of AJC and the Web Devs. We got longtime returning guest Dev Agarwal with us here. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. It's so nice to be able to go out and experience the sun again after 1 or 2 weeks of just extreme snow and cold and negative temperatures.
I feel you. Yeah, no, we live fairly close geographically, so we tend to
Yeah.
experience the same weather patterns, I would guess. And yeah, just yesterday, me and my wife went for a walk
hmm
outside. We were like,
hmm
oh, the sun is shining.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And I
really
got my
great.
new favorite shirt.
Oh, got signals. That's funny. Is that an official Solidjs
Yes,
merch shirt?
it is.
We gotta drop a link to that.
Solidjs.
Where's Solidjs merch sold?
Uh,
I searched Solidjs merch and it took me
I
to
should
the
have.
docs on stores, which is not correct.
No, it's
Good
solidjs.com
try.
slash
Good
store.
try,
There we
Bing.
go.
You almost got there, Bing.
Solidjs.com slash store. There you go. Solid store. This is store is kind of an overloaded word in the realm of Solidjs, I think. There's stores that you use for state management, then there's store that you use for buying these awesome shirts.
Yeah, totally. Cool, man. So what have you been up to recently? How's the world of Dave?
It's pretty fun actually. So January was my last month with the company I was contracting with, um, or
Smart
like
data?
consulting for. So the Smart Data is employing me, but through Smart
Okay.
Data, I was working for a different company. That
Right. Was
was
that the Remix
January.
app you were talking about last time?
Yes, yes, yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah.
yeah. January was the last month, and since like basically this month, I've kind of been working on an internal tool, which like there was kind of a hackathon at the beginning of February for like everyone who doesn't have a client company assigned. I came up with an
Really?
idea, and people really liked that idea after the hackathon. So now that's kind of become an internal effort, uh,
Ah.
which
Could you
I
speak
and
in general terms about what the app
mhm.
does? You don't need to go too much into detail, but I'm just kind of curious.
um, I I don't know how much I can speak, but like
No.
it's an AI thing. Like it's
Okay.
like another. It's I don't know. I don't know if I want to call it a GPT wrapper. Some people might call it a GPT wrapper, but it is actually it's wrapping a lot of things, not just
I
GPT.
think
But
let's talk about that real quick. The term GPT wrapper is so silly to me. I call it
yeah,
using an API. Like,
hmm
why is this a
yeah,
denigrated thing to use AI
yeah,
APIs and be like, you're not building something real because you're
hmm
using an AI? I think that is
yeah,
so silly.
yeah. It's like every app is a database wrapper. It's a post like everyone's
Totally.
building a Postgres wrapper.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I find that really
hmm
silly, but I
Yeah.
did like that the conversation kind
hmm
of switched about a month ago because you had like DeepSeek come out, and
hmm
a lot of different models are kind of percolating, and people are saying now the GPT wrappers are actually the
Right.
mode, not the models.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of what I've been working on. It's nice because then because I get to like work on an idea that I came up with that I am excited about, and I
Yeah,
get to like do the product ownership stuff, which is yeah, that's also fun.
no, that's
This
super
is
sweet. That
probably
sounds
yeah, it's like the first time I'm doing some sort of product ownership under under a company. Like so far,
mhm.
it's just been like random side projects or volunteer projects that I've kind of been like in charge of. But this is the first time that a company comes to me, hey, I like this idea, go work on this, and here's a team for you.
No, that's awesome, man. I always pegged you for
Yeah,
leadership. You got the leadership gene in you. Seriously.
and I've had the opposite experience. I've
That's
I
because you're
have
young.
a
You need time to
that's
percolate.
possible. That's possible. Yeah. Now I have a kind of like a reflection journal article on my website where like I talk about a couple leadership things that I tried to do when I was back in college and how most of them failed horribly.
Well,
And
I would say the
yeah,
way people learn leadership is usually by failing many times, similar
failing
to software
horribly. Yeah,
development. You learn to build
true.
code by writing a lot of code that breaks. It's leadership. It
Hmm.
feels higher stakes because you're working with other people, and it's more embarrassing when you fail.
Hmm.
But it's just life, man. Like you gotta fall down to get back up.
Yeah, yeah. So that's been going really fun. Other than that, I've there's a Solid 2.0 hit experimental recently, which
Oh,
means now like more people can start playing with it, providing input. There was a whole. Let me actually find uh, the GitHub discussion on it.
no, that's awesome. And since
This
I
one right
got
here.
a solid core member here, I gotta ask, could you give me the high level? Why is 2.0 cool?
Mhm.
Why should people care about it? What's like the big headline news with it?
Definitely, yeah. I think the biggest headline with Solid 2.0 is async signals. Um, Basically, every time you fetch data in like your components, usually what you would do is like you would have some sort of hook like handstack query, like create you use query, use async, anything like that, and what it would return is a variable that could be undefined when the data isn't there, right? Which is pretty normal. Like you write use query and then you get back like data, and that could be either data or it could be undefined. Like if you're fetching a user object, your user object could be user or undefined, right? Uh, that means that everywhere in your UI, you need to do a bunch of undefined checks. Like if user, then show the user data. If not, then like show some sort of loading state or something like that. This gets completely eliminated um, with the new Solidjs stuff. And like React already kind of achieved that, but this adds on top where fetching data doesn't block rendering your component, which is a big problem with React. As soon as you do something async, it immediately stops, goes back, and then once it's done, it tries to re-render again, which causes all
So it's
sorts
kind of
of
like an
issues.
island, right?
Um,
Like conceptually.
I would. I, this is still meant for like if the entire like you would use this regardless of islands or not.
Okay.
It's mostly just that because it's a signal, like you don't like you. I don't know. It's a little difficult to explain. I still have to like wrap my head around how to explain this to people who are not already in deep like
Yeah, for
Solid.js.
sure. Yeah. So
Like right
so it
now, it's
sounds like,
very. Mhm,
so you said it doesn't block rendering. That's like the main thing.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
uh,
then
it doesn't
it's
block rendering, and at the same time like you don't have to have undefined checks. Like if you fetch the user object, or like if you fetch user data, the variable that you get back is user object. It's not user or undefined, it's user. So you don't have a bunch of undefined checks. But it also does it in a way that doesn't block, which like uh, no one else really has this capability. And then like on top there's a bunch of different there's a bunch more changes that we are still trying to figure out how we are going to talk about these in like the broader sense. But a lot of these things are things that other frameworks are also trying to catch up with. So like Svelte has some of this, or that like they're trying to build some of this themselves as well. um yeah. And overall it's just like a lot, like taking a lot of ways that people were using Solidjs already, like building some of those patterns within the core system so that like overall everything just feels more ergonomic.
interesting. Has Ryan done a stream about this yet, or is he going to?
Yeah. So at the stream that he did 2 weeks ago was uh, at the same time that he published this discussion, the Road to 2.0. That's where he kind of showed the big uh, like the big highlight features of Solid
Oh
2.0.
yeah, Signals 2.0 feature of Signals. Great.
Yes. Yeah. Um, yeah. It's like it's an experimental, which means there's way too many things that are not there, and obviously, like there's um, like there are some breaking changes as well, which means the ecosystem is going to have to go through some uh, like some major updates before they can be used with the new version of Solid.
Well, that's the point of
So
Semper. If it's
yeah.
2.0, you're supposed to expect that, but we've lost the
Mhm.
meaning of
Yeah.
Semper.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
know
Yeah.
this 'cause I hung out with the creator of some
Mhm.
many times.
Of course. Yeah.
He used to
Yeah.
always
But
complain about how bad everyone is in December.
that's fair. Of course. Yeah. The creator always does that. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
whoever created OOP, uh, actually, no, it's not. I'm sure he has said it many times that calling the paradigm object oriented was the wrong choice because it puts the focus on objects and uh, not what it actually was supposed to
Not all
be.
the other crap that actually makes up OOP.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously we've probably heard about the $1 billion mistake. Uh, the creator of Null called it the $1 billion mistake.
In
So
C, right?
sorry,
Was it C, the language C that had that issue? I forget what it was, a specific programming language
I
that they
think
called that the error. Yeah.
I think so. I'm not sure. It might just
Yeah.
be like in the concept in general has caused so many problems. Um, but yeah, yes, all the 2.0 has been exciting for me because I've been talking to Ryan a lot, and there's a lot in here that's kind of like me playing around with things, talking to Ryan, and then providing feedback, providing design input on how things could work, how things should work. So, like, it almost to me, it also kind of feels like sort of my baby because there's a lot of input that I've provided in here, and that I'm very happy to see like it making through.
No, that's cool,
Like
man.
self,
I'm so glad that you like
yeah.
got deep into the actual framework stuff
Hmm.
because that's how I really cut my teeth, was getting
Hmm.
into Redwood, and
Yeah.
just being like present for the conversations, even like
Hmm.
you're more involved in the conversations than I even was. And for me, I was kind of like sitting there and just like soaking it all in, you know.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
you get to see like
Hmm.
how these things are created, the thought process
Hmm.
that go into them, and you just gain such higher level understanding
Hmm.
of not only the frameworks but just software development itself. And then real
Yeah.
quick, just to close the loop on it,
Hmm.
Tony, Hoare, Tony Hoare is probably how it's
Hmm.
pronounced, was referring to algol when he
Hmm.
was making a
Got.
reference to the null references. But I
Hmm.
asked a follow up question. I was like, does this relate to C? And it says
Hmm.
yes. Tony Hoare's $1 billion mistake, the introduction of null references, is highly relevant to C, even though it
Of
originated
course.
before C was created. So C
Hmm.
uses null pointers. This is stuff I've never written much C,
Right.
so
Hmm.
most of the stuff's beyond my pay grade. But we don't
Yeah.
need to go too deep into that. I thought that was interesting. I wanted
Hmm.
to give people the
Hmm.
reference on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that to like for me to be able to reach a point where I can provide design input there. Like before that, there were 2.5 years of me just sitting and absorbing stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
like after 2 years of just sitting and absorbing stuff is that's when I get to a point where I can actually start providing input. So that's like a lot of times uh, people look at like me or anyone who just like reaches a point where they are contributing or they're providing design input or they're building their own things.
I
uh,
think it happened overnight.
yeah, exactly. And it
Yeah.
often like doesn't acknowledge the 2 years, 3 years, 4 years of just sitting and absorbing things. So I just wanted
Mhm.
to make sure that is also mentioned.
Yeah, no, totally. There's another famous quote about that, that like
Hmm.
every overnight sensation was 10 years in the making or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. But there was one thing that I also wanted to talk about before we dive too deep into the code. Leak code is back in the news. And you said that
Yeah.
you had a viral leak code tweet back in September 2022.
Hmm.
The ones today are like, let's be honest, because you're referring, someone else said grinding leak code is the single most important skill you can
Hmm.
develop. I saw that tweet
Yeah.
as well. And my thought
Hmm.
was this, exactly what you said. And then Aiden posted this thing about
Hmm.
fuck leak, which is a way to, I guess, cheat on
Hmm.
leak code questions.
Hmm.
So have you actually tried this, or did you just retweet it?
I'm not. No,
Yeah.
I just retweeted it immediately as I saw it. Like as soon as I saw that, and like obviously this exists, and obviously this is going to get bigger and better over time. Big like if people can find a way to cheat the system, they will. Which is why lead code was was bad in the first place because it allows cheating the system.
Yeah, but it was much harder to cheat back in the day, especially when you
Hmm.
actually had to do interviews in person because they could
Hmm.
look at your screen. A
Yeah.
little bit different now that it's remote. But I also
Hmm.
thought this is interesting because you and I think, are coming at it from different starting places in the sense that
Hmm.
it's easy to say fuck leak code when you can't solve leak code, which I can't.
Hmm.
You actually have a CS degree, and I would be willing to bet easy to
IT, yeah.
medium leak code problems you could probably do without much difficulty, right?
Easy ones probably not like I so there was a difference between the CS program and the IT program in my university. The CS program, yes, a lot of those people would be pretty good at easy to medium problems like these. uh, in the IT program, we never really got exposed to um, like hardcore CS concepts, data structures, algorithms like this.
So was it like
um,
a boot camp where you
yeah.
actually like worked with frameworks and built software,
It was
or is it like
kind
DevOps?
of, that extended over like 4 years, but also like a lot more shitty because it's college and not a real boot camp. um, and
So
like
what
it's a
software
very
were
old
you using?
curriculum.
Like when you're doing your actual
Mhm.
assignments, like what were you actually like writing?
Java and Proton, a very like super old
Brutal.
IDEs for Java, some like .NET, Visual Studio, um,
Okay.
a little a little bit of JavaScript here and there using NetBeans. So
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a really, the issue is not even that like you don't learn the right stuff in
Hmm.
academia, is that you use
Yeah.
10-year-old tools.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
why are we teaching Java? It's just crazy.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I can probably justify like teaching Java. I don't know if I can justify teaching Java using a 15-year-old IDE. That's the part where
Sure,
like
yeah.
Java is still highly used.
Yeah,
And
we use
like if you have
IntelliJ. Our
Mhm,
our boot camp
exactly.
let you choose whether to do
Hmm.
Java or JavaScript, and like an idiot, chose to do Java because I was like, I already know a little bit of Node. I'll learn some Java. The worst decision ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Java, it's like React is reaching that same level, honestly, slowly of like
Mm.
you probably just need to learn this so that you're more hireable. But other than that, you probably shouldn't. Right now, it's still like the dominant hot tech, but
Mhm.
that's kind of the WordPress, the Java. That's the status it's approaching. But yeah. Anyways, lead code. I didn't actually
I like
get to
this
do much
thing
lead
you
code.
created,
Hmm.
algo skill versus usefulness in
Hmm.
software engineering. This is, I can tell this is
Yeah.
back when you're watching a lot of Theo. The fact that you
Yeah.
created this.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is Excalibur, which I
Mhm.
stopped using for like I haven't used in the last 2 years or so.
Yeah, so you're basically saying that. So what this is as
Hmm.
usefulness, or as how often you will use it and how useful it is, decreases as
Yes.
the problems get harder and harder. Is what
Exactly.
this
Yeah.
graph is saying. So you have leak
Hmm.
code hard over here at the end
Yeah.
on the x-axis, and every day all the way at the top on
Hmm.
the y-axis. And this is always my point about
Hmm.
why people who over index on
Hmm.
leak code, and they basically only get really good at that if you say,
Hmm.
okay, build me a CRUD API that
Yeah.
accesses a database. Like, then people
Hmm.
will be like, I don't know how to do it, because they don't even know how to like install the tools to do it. But
Yeah.
they can be like, oh, but I can write you this sweet data
Hmm.
structure algorithm thing. So I
Yeah.
also think Google is to blame a lot for
Hmm.
this, because Google really invented this whole style of like whiteboarding
Hmm.
interviews, to where they might not even ask you to code it. They would be like, here's an
Hmm.
algo problem, write it on a whiteboard, and then tell me the big O complexity of the solution you used, or
Hmm.
something like that, which is just,
Yeah.
cool if you can do that. But
Hmm.
I just don't know really how useful it is at the end of the day, especially now we got like LLMs that can optimize your code for you.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think if you look at the comments, both Prime and Theo show up and eventually agree with this.
I typically use DSAs all the
Hmm.
time, which get past UI dev and go to the library. DSA becomes
Hmm.
immediately useful. Seems like he's kind of pushing back.
Yeah, he initially he was pushing back, but so I think most of the pushback I received was because I didn't like I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Thank you, Theo, for retweeting it.
Yeah.
But like if I knew that it was gonna be blowing up, I would have probably put a little more thought into those labels to make it like more agreeable to the general.
So that's one thing Theo is saying
Yeah.
here. I feel like this is semantics. He says you
Exactly.
should have
Yes.
changed it to percentage of devs who need to
Yeah.
use this regularly, which is the same as usefulness. Like that's kind of splitting hairs.
Yeah.
And then Prime agrees. Good way to think of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fire
It's
extinguishers
completely
is a good
useless
one.
until they're completely useful. It's like a fire extinguisher. See, I don't like that metaphor because an unoptimized algorithm will not burn your house down. It's more like a cluttered house where like you got to crawl over some stuff. It's a bit more obnoxious. It may take more time for you to navigate it, but it won't burn the house. It won't collapse the whole house.
I mean, some people do think of it as like setting the server on fire or setting the RAM on fire or the CPU. Like you could overclock and overheat it. So I don't know. There's always different analogies that you can pull. But yeah, some like a cleaning crew would probably be a good way.
Just buy more RAM.
Yeah, buy more RAM. Download more RAM.
Okay, cool. So what I wanted to kind of get into now, let's talk about the image API stuff. So we had originally chatted about this at the end of our last episode, and you just kind of said offhand you would like to learn more about like generating images with AI, and I was also like, hey, that's something I could kind of learn more about as well, even though I know a little bit about it. So let's just talk about that. Do you generate AI images? Do you have like a certain use case for it?
My biggest use case has been so far like slideshows for my conference talks, like just putting random visuals. Let me actually share what kind of images I use or I try to generate. This is my Canva, which is
okay.
I probably should find something else. Yeah. Let's look at this one. Yeah, so this is the talk that I gave. Oh, that's the wrong tab. Sorry, I should just share my screen because
sharing tabs is a nightmare on the StreamYard. So this is for like conference talks, meetups, and things like that.
Yeah. So this is the talk that I gave at Star Trek last year, and then at an internal or like a lunch and learn. But like this background here, AI generated. I think most images that you see here, or every image that you see here, is going to be AI generated, other than like the visuals, obviously. So just trying to make some
and you were using ChatGPT, I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can tell because I've generated a lot of images, and when you kind of that's a good one. I like that one, but that's
this one
too actually. Or I was gonna say the on fire one, and then the kind of chrome looking one. But scroll up to like your first couple ones. So
like these.
That one, the Ajax, that one. So all three of those, they all have a similar kind of look to them.
Yeah.
And I find that's kind of where learning how to prompt them is really useful because it's a little bit like how people can tell when they're reading something generated by ChatGPT. Even though it's like it's extremely high quality and it would have taken an actual writer or like image artist, it would have taken them a long time to do it. But people are already so used to it that they're kind of like, they call it slop, AI slop.
Yeah.
And so some people will look at these slides and they'd be like, we got this AI slop images in this thing. But I don't think that's the right way to look at it. Because I actually think if you start from first principles, these images are really great. Actually, like if someone actually had to sit down and create all these from scratch, that would be really hard. So it's amazing how this is kind of a tangent, but just like how fast our standards have risen because of AI. Like we just expect this like extremely high quality, intricate images on all of our stuff. That's a good one. I like that one a lot. So that's like water streaming out of. So when you were creating these, kind of what was your
Mhm.
thought process? How were you prompting it? Were you explaining
Uh,
that you were giving a
yeah.
talk, or did you just kind of like talk out each image by itself? So I think this is important, the actual how people prompt to create the images.
Yeah, let me try to find the conversation. I did give it like a decent bit of context about this is what my talk is about. I think I gave it a description as well, and like of the
Okay.
talk in general. And then I like, yeah, then I was just talking it through specific images that I want. This is the slide. This is kind of what I want to show. Let's. Hmm. I think for like some of them are really obvious. Like here, when I tell it about GraphQL, it knows that like it got the
So
purple
yeah.
color, and it like even though that's not the logo, it kind of at least it tried with the color.
Yeah, it knows there's nodes should that be connected to each other, connected to one
Yeah.
single endpoint, kind of.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. There's been so many freaking conversations that I have to scroll down way too much to find that.
No, actually,
Uh,
me and my wife used to share a ChatGPT
mhm,
account, and then I got her really into it. So now I have my own
mhm.
separate account, and we both have like
Yeah.
all these long running conversations with it. Have you started using Deep
Yeah.
Research, by the way?
Deep research. What is that?
Okay, so you're probably, I would guess you're not on the 200 plan, you're probably on the 20 plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you just got access to Deep Research, and you should use this. It's basically
Okay.
like using a reasoning model to where
Right.
it's a long running query. So you'll kind of tell
Hmm.
it what you want, and then it'll ask you
Hmm.
some follow up questions, which ChatGPT has never
Right.
done before, unless you prompted it
Hmm.
to. But then it will basically go off and do like a 30-minute long query. Will search for hundreds of
Hmm.
websites to actually answer your question and spend a
Right.
long time. Right, it'll write you like
Hmm.
5 to 10,000 word answer. It's like a really
Nice.
long, meaty, well researched answer.
Okay.
I've been using it because I'm on the 200 plan, but people just got
Right.
access to it on the 20 plan.
Hmm.
I highly recommend when you think of some random topic
Hmm.
or thing you want to research, like
Hmm.
throw it at Deep Research and see what it gives you. And I think you'll be pretty impressed.
Okay. OpenAI deep research. Yeah, I should look into that. That's going to be very helpful, especially for my girlfriend who's going to college right now.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, so I think this is where I started. Um, I guess I didn't give, or here I probably didn't give it the entire context of the slides. There's probably a different conversation that generated like the title image.
Also,
Let's see.
hello
So
to Mike Cavalier hanging out in the chat. Thanks for
how's it
stopping by.
going?
You keep going. I'm gonna be off screen, but I'll
Yeah.
be listening. I'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So this was kind of my process to generate these images. Um, yeah, it gave me something. Then I said this is too robotic. So give me something that's more like more contemporary. And then it came up with this, which I think was nice. I believe this is the single page apps are awesome. Um, so honestly, the only reason I had the slide in the first place is because there's way too many like HTMX people in the crowd in the community these days. They're like, no, say SPAs are bad. We should just do things on the
When
server
was this
more.
talk from?
This talk was May of last year. But honestly, like this only gets more relevant uh, by the day. Just trying to convince people that hey, single page apps are still good. So yeah, streams, and I think this is how I was trying to get it to do the title slide, showing a stream and a waterfall separately. So it gave me this, and I think then I wanted it to be like give the correct aspect ratio. It by default comes with like square-ish images, so I always have to tell it that hey, I want this in this specific resolution. Um, so then it gave me this bigger one. Um, yeah, then I guess I it just gave me like waterfalls with a bunch of lines, and then I said okay, just add some more like browsers and like just throw in some more techie stuff, more webby stuff in there. So
So
it added a
Mike is
bunch of
saying here, SPAs rock. Don't
hell
believe
yeah,
the hype. Yeah, yeah. And
100%.
the aspect ratio thing, that's a good thing
Mhm.
you just brought that up, because once we get
Mhm.
into the code working with the
Mhm.
APIs, you can specify
Mhm.
the exact resolution
Right.
that you want, and kind of if
Mhm.
you want it to be square, if you want it to be like
Mhm.
widescreen, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what finally gave me this. Then I guess I was talking about Ajax. Um, yeah, maybe didn't fully understand what Ajax was initially, or maybe it did. I don't know. Yeah, it just gave
It
me a
spelled
like
it
a
right at
globe.
least. That's a
Yeah.
huge issue with these things, is it can't spell
Yeah.
words
Mhm.
usually.
Yeah. Oh, there's a bunch of these where it gives me an image with a bunch of text, and then I prompted, "Hey, please remove the text. It's not spelled
Gibberish.
correctly. I'll just add text on my own." But it's not able to do that. So then I have to start a whole new chat with like a whole new prompt and
Well,
try.
if you click an image, like click that Ajax image real quick.
Mhm.
So in the top, you can select
Oh,
portions of the image to edit. So click
okay.
select. If you want to say
Interesting.
get rid of Ajax, you could circle that up
Right.
and then say
That's
modify
new.
this.
Was this there like last year, or is this new?
It would likely have not been there when you
Right.
originally did this, because I was saying that if this is about a
Okay.
year ago, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
new in the sense that it's been there for 6 to
Mm-hmm.
9 to 12, some amount of months. I'm not really
Right.
sure, but it's been there for a
Okay.
while. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I probably didn't understand what Ajax is, but
Hmm.
like the best it could come up with was a globe. This one was pretty straightforward, I guess. People like a foot
Okay,
gun
so
shooting
hold
themselves in
on.
the foot with
New
it.
image with Ajax said that, and the image is picked as a tool. So
Yeah.
powerful.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
scroll up a little bit. That people are shooting
Mm-hmm.
themselves in the. Oh, okay, it's a foot gun.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Now I see. Okay, I thought he was like stepping on an exploding
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like I wasn't entirely sure what was happening. Now it's a foot gun.
Yeah. I think maybe that's supposed to be the gun. It's
Yeah.
possible. I don't know. Or maybe
Well,
that's
some
supposed to
people
be a
talk
fire
about foot
extinguisher.
guns. They're talking about
Hmm.
shooting themselves in the foot, but
Hmm.
most people would think of a foot that is a gun. They're not the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Danny
Uh,
Thompson in the chat. What's up, buddy?
how's it going, Danny? What's up? We're talking about AI images. Oh, yeah. Spinageddon, it gave me like this colorful version. Yeah, I said these don't really look like loading spinners. They just look
It looks
like
like
the
the
Chrome
Chrome.
logo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Uh-huh.
So then it gave me this, which was like the frustrated man, which really adds to the what I'm trying to show.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is what it's just been. I just gave it the term composability, and this one
Composability.
like sometimes it's just one shots, like exactly what I was kind of looking for.
Okay. Yeah, those look pretty good.
Hmm.
Because it's the blocks, that
Yeah.
Lego bricks. People always talk
Hmm.
about composability.
Yeah. Yeah. This time, like foot gun, it doesn't really have like it just has the composability weirdly spelled up. But
Interesting.
other than that, it's just the
Yeah.
same image. Okay, I guess. I do like all the clutter and like the multi-monitor setups, Windows. This is cute.
So Mike is saying the quality has improved a bunch
Hmm.
since I last played with it. Assuming he's talking about
Hmm.
Dolly, which is the image thing that is kind of built
Hmm.
into ChatGPT. Not quite as sharp as SD, which I
Hmm.
would guess he means stable
Standard definition.
diffusion.
Oh,
No, he's
never
talking about
mind.
stable diffusion, which is another
Okay.
AI image. Let us know
Hmm.
what your he's saying stable
Right.
diffusion here, which is good
Okay.
because that's one of the 3 image APIs we'll be looking at today.
Let's go.
So let's get. I want to do a similar thing that you just did. I want to walk through my
Hmm.
clogs. I wanted to
Nice.
try out Claude 3.7, which is the new hotness. And keep an eye on the comments and let me know
Hmm.
if they're coming in, because I won't necessarily be able to pull them up. So I'm looking at my screen.
Sure.
But
Yep.
I asked it to write me a Node.js script for generating images with the top 3
Hmm.
image generation APIs currently available. Now, it
Nice.
made an interesting decision in that it picked
Hmm.
Dolly, Stable Diffusion, but then also
Hmm.
Midjourney. There's an issue with that, though. Midjourney does not have an official public API. So there's like these
Okay.
weird third-party things that
Hmm.
interface with it in some way. It's the same thing with Suno, which is this really cool song generation thing. It really bugs me. I wish these companies would just ship a freaking API. I don't know what they're waiting for. But I then told it not to use Midjourney, as to choose Black Forest Labs, which is the other kind of top player in this space.
Right.
I also told it, what I always have to tell it, don't use require, use ESM imports, and don't put semicolons in my damn JavaScript. What are you doing? And then also that uses Axios instead of fetch. So with that, I got pretty much exactly what I wanted. But then
Cool.
I had to tell it to put it in like a blog format. So I gave it some instructions how I like my blog posts written. I like to kind of have it start from the very scratch, build you up the project structure and all that. So then it kind of rewrote the thing. It gave me all the instructions. And then I went through it and I'm like, all right, let me run these commands just based on the one shot. And without providing any docs, even, it got 2 out of 3 perfect. So the Dolly one worked and the Stable Diffusion one worked. I got an error on Black Forest Labs, and that's not really Claude's fault. It's because Black Forest Labs shit is complicated. They have you generate an image, and then instead of giving you the image back, they give you an ID, which you then need to append to a certain URL and then hit again to get the response back. So I had to explain that to it and have it work through that. But
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they like generate it and store it on cloud somewhere, and here you go download it whenever you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is kind of nice because the other ones only say them ephemerally. So I get why they're making that decision. It makes sense, but it's an extra layer of complication to work with the API. But one other thing that it was doing is that it was crapping out at the end because I was asking it to generate so much code. So I told it to let's see.
Just stopped at the console error.
I was like, doing a thing where you give me the entire blog post in an artifact and then you try to rewrite your response. Don't do that. Just give me the artifact and your message say, here you go, bro. So and then that did. So this gave me the one-shot blog post that we're gonna go through now. Okay.
Yeah.
Any
Cavalier respectfully disagrees about semicolons.
Okay, well, we're not going to get into
that. Danny says been using 3.7 all day, and it's been pretty decent. The only thing I wish for is that AI tools start using a better naming convention. Yeah, 3.7 is a great name.
I explained this to my wife before I went on stream. It's the stupidest crap ever. They released 3.5, which was an improvement on version 3. Then they released a new version of 3.5 that they did not rename, but people who knew that a new version was shipped started calling 3.6. So 3.6 was an unofficial community branded name for the new upgraded version of 3.5 that they did not feel the need to rename. And then when they released a new one, they then said, okay, we're going to call it 3.7 because everyone knew 3.5 upgraded was actually 3.6. What are these people doing? What the hell?
Oh my god. It reminds me of ES5 and ES6. So
no, it's absolutely insane. It's like how ChatGPT went from 3.5 to 4 to then 1.0 to then or it was 01 and then to 03 because 02 was copyrighted. Like, yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Okay.
Naming is hard.
Yeah, naming is hard. So here's the code that Claude wrote. It has a utility here to generate a unique file name because when this is another thing that kind of had to work out with it by prompting is that the first thing it did is that every time you would generate an image, it just gave you a placeholder name. So if you were generating multiple images, which the tutorial shows you how to do, they would overwrite each other. So this basically just like makes sure that there's a unique name for every image.
Cool.
Okay. So then we have 3 scripts, one for Dolly, which
Right.
is using OpenAI's image generation endpoint and basically just hits it and then gets a response back and then writes it to a file. So this is pretty standard Node.js scripting, which is what I really like. I always try to
Right.
encourage it. So I don't think we have a single dependency in this project right now, which is pretty cool.
Wait, I thought you were using Axios instead of Fetch.
No, so the first response it gave back was Axios, and then
Okay.
I asked it to rewrite it using Node.js.
Oh, use Fetch instead of Axios. Okay. Yeah, I read that the other way around. Sorry.
Yeah, because the first thing it did included Axios.
Right.
And this is part of because they're trained on code from like the 2020 to 2023, you know, so they're not as aware of how far Node.js has come, especially in the last like 2 or 3 versions. So Node 20 and 22 lets you do essentially everything dependency free, which is really cool. But you always kind of have to tell it, hey, don't give me the node of the 2010s. Give me the node of the 2020s, bro.
Yeah. It's like when Devin was asked to create a to-do app, it installed like 500 kilobytes of dependencies with like React, Chakra, UI, I don't know, CSS modules, so much stuff for a simple app.
Yeah. So we got none of that. We're importing from native Node utilities, which is really cool. So the stability API is going to be pretty similar. If you look at kind of what we were actually sending in the fetch here for Dolly, we tell it the model, and then we include the prompt, the size, quality, and then response format. And the prompt gets fed in through the CLI command, which we'll see. And that's basically a similar thing to what's happening here. We give it a prompt. I'm not sure what weight is. And then let's see. This stuff's coming. Oh, here we go. So
right.
This is here. So it's both of them are kind of generating, I think, basically square images, 1024 by 1024. The Black Forest Lab one is set to 1024 by 678, so slightly different. So again, this is all stuff Claude figured out without me giving it any docs at all, which is pretty awesome.
Nice.
Okay, so now let's run.
And this is the third-party Black Forest API, right? Because I don't have an official one.
No, so that was Midjourney. Which
that was Midjourney. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So that was when I was explaining this first part, this is all the stuff I had to kind of correct. So I said use Black Forest Labs instead of Midjourney because I want to be able to use official APIs. Because if you're using someone's unofficial API, like they're gonna be deprecated.
It could break. Yeah.
They're gonna break super quickly. Like it's I don't think it's a good idea to use any of those, honestly. So I would recommend people.
These things move fast.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I only use the official APIs. This is also why I like having it write the code like this. Is I'm not even depending on their SDKs because you have OpenAI, they have an image SDK, or they have an SDK in general, which I'm sure includes image capabilities. I really like working with the raw APIs for these companies because you get a good sense of what are the different parameters you can pass, what are the different things you can tweak, and you really learn how these things work to a much greater degree, even than you would just using their SDKs, which are nice. I'm not saying you shouldn't use, but you should start with their APIs and then kind of build from there if you feel like their SDKs offer a good thing. Okay.
Yeah. There's also the Vercel AI SDK has an experimental image generation API.
Yeah, and that's the next level of abstraction. That's like you got the frameworks and the meta frameworks. I have been using it for its agent capability. I wrote a blog post about this that's in being edited right now for Semaphore. That it was a great experience. I will say that the Vercel AI SDK so far I got nothing but good things to say about. But
they're working on it
from
really
a learning standpoint, you should still learn how to do things at least one time before
Definitely.
using that, and then you can at least be like, hey, it's like, you want to build your React to do list before
Yeah.
you build a next to do list, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like you want to learn how to roll your own auth before using Clerk.
Sure, yeah. That's what I'm doing right now, actually. Literally in the
Nice.
process of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah. I definitely agree that working with raw APIs is good to get a full handle on the the full capabilities of the model, understand the trade-offs between why would you want to pick a certain model over the other.
yeah,
But for the project that I'm working on, something like AI SDK makes a lot more sense because we want to invest the minimum amount of time and support all the models that we can possibly do, and it's like the best way to achieve that. And they are working really hard on making it uh, actually usable, provide all the capabilities, and yeah, just expanding their use case into everything.
totally. Yeah, no, I think that's actually a great point you're making, is that if you're not doing it as you want to learn as much as you can about
Mm-hmm.
AI, and you need to ship something in minimal time and
Mm-hmm.
effort, yeah, it does make a lot of sense for that. And I will say that's what people used to say LangChain
Mm-hmm.
was for 2 years ago, and LangChain was complicated as hell.
Yeah.
Versatil's AI SDK is so much better than LangChain. I
Yeah.
really, really do not recommend people use LangChain.
Mm-hmm.
They pioneered a lot of stuff and they're great. I don't want to talk crap about what they built with other people, but I just have to say,
Mm-hmm.
do not use it. It's not good.
Yeah, say what you want about Vercel and their business tactics, whatever. They know how developer experience
Yeah,
is
for sure. Vercel
it's
ships
made
great stuff.
better.
Always been a fan.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's our first image. So our
Nice.
prompt that we fed it was a futuristic city with flying cars and neon lights. Now,
Mm-hmm.
something that a lot of people probably don't actually know if they just kind of use these things casually is that
Mm-hmm.
anytime you give a prompt to Dolly or ChatGPT, it actually rewrites it and then feeds it this much longer prompt of what it's actually telling
Okay,
it to create. So
that's
it then says,
interesting.
create an image illustrating a futuristic
Mm-hmm.
cityscape at night. It should include a sparkling sea of neon lights that
Mm-hmm.
flood the streets and buildings. And it gives this long whole paragraph kind of description.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that it's just kind of interesting. It's something that a
I
lot of
like
people
that.
don't
Yeah.
necessarily realize.
And if you give it an already detailed prompt that has all those details, does it make it even bigger, or does it just does it have some sort of a limit?
Let's find out. So
That
let's run the exact prompt it just gave us and see what it says.
yeah, I'm curious. Does it have
I
some
would guess
sort of
it's
threshold?
probably going to give back a similar prompt of a similar
Mhm.
length. It might rewrite a couple
Mhm.
words. Let's see.
Yeah, it's basically the same
Yeah,
size.
it's similar, but it's not exactly the same.
Mhm.
It
Right.
ends with reflect the city's vibrant and dynamic energy
Mhm.
versus portraying the lively atmosphere of the city. It's
Right.
very,
So
very similar, but
so
slightly
it's
different.
looking for a threshold. If your prompt is smaller than a certain size, it's going to make it more detailed, add more details on its own. But if you give it a detailed prompt itself, then it doesn't. It just needs to I guess rephrase it.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I think it also makes it very much easier to understand how to work with it better. Hey, here's the more detailed prompt, and once I see it, next time I go to prompt it, I know that okay, this is this is kind of the starting point. Because a lot of prompt engineering is the first time you go into it, you have to think very hard to figure out all the details that you want in there. Nice.
It made one of us chick.
Perfect.
Cool. Great. All right. Do you have anything else to say on prompt engineering?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the prompt engineering. Yeah, it's and I need to get more into it. I just keep even for the app that we are building right now, there's a lot of prompt optimization that can be done to
Mm-hmm.
get better results out of it. it's just like in my head that I keep pushing it down because I just feel a little intimidated going into that, uh, like getting into that loop of how to refine a prompt over and over and
Sure. I mean, I
make
give
it
you some
better.
tips. It's like I've spent a lot
Mhm.
of time writing prompts for auto shows. So this is something I've actually spent a decent amount of time
Right.
thinking about and doing.
Perfect. Yeah.
First, are we talking about images? Or are we talking about text? Or are we talking about both in
Text.
terms of your output? Text. Okay, great. So with text, I would say you want to the best like 80-20 advice I could give, like simple thing you can do that will highly improve your output is tell it what you want in like plain English, like you're just talking to a person, and then literally write an example of what the output you're looking like should look like. So for me, I
Okay.
want a markdown file that has, H2 that says episode summary, and then text for the summary, and then H2 that says chapters, then H3 for each chapter. So it's like I have kind of a structure in mind of what it should look
Right.
like. And also I have a certain idea of how long certain things should be. So I tell it, this part should be roughly this many words. But if you just say that, because they're not great at math and stuff like that, they might not always quite understand what you're actually asking for. Better and better models are getting better actually just following straight instructions. But if you actually write out kind of what you think it should look like in the kind of language you want it to sound like, then that will drastically improve your outputs. So that would be the biggest thing I would recommend.
Right. Okay. Right. So we are using structured outputs. We're not using like OpenAI structured outputs. We're using AI SDKs, like generate object, which like you can give it a Zod schema.
Okay. So you
like
already, so it already kind of knows the structure of what it wants. Okay, that's
right.
That's interesting then. That helps a lot.
Yeah, I think maybe I could come up with here's the input and here's an output, and
I would
maybe
say
give it
if you
some more
could give it at
examples.
least one output object, not necessarily so it knows the structure, but so that it knows how the language should be written within each of them. Because I'm sure sometimes you're probably getting a wide range of outputs. Some are good, some are bad. So try and think about what is it about the good outputs that you can kind of capture in a single example object you could show it.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out, Cavalier. This is great. Great. Got around great stuff. Yeah. So in like, since it already has the structure, maybe the next thing to optimize would be the logic, in which case I need like specific input outputs. Okay. So what did stability come up with?
All right. So this is it gives you doesn't look like the result at least is rewriting the prompt at all. Just gives you a success, seed number, and then the path to what we're writing. So that's pretty cool. That looks nice. Black Forest was the one that had a little bit more complicated stuff. So it's saying here that it provides a two-step process where it gives you a generation task and you receive a task ID, and then you pull the server until the image is ready. So we'll see that in the console logs as well.
Oh, you have to poll it? Like it doesn't tell you when it's done?
Apparently not.
Wow. Also,
another thing you could do is probably just have it wait for a certain amount of time because it didn't take that long, But so you see here we actually have a whole image URL.
Yeah.
But then this is the output.
Nice. That's awesome.
Now
also, I love that there's a compare command. Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Can we compare?
So that's what I really like about what it did. I don't even think I specifically asked Claude to do this, even though I would have if it didn't. So now it gives you a single command that's going to run all three, and that's this combined generator, which is really good. They made this smart composable. Each image generator is its own function. Then they pull them all in and have them all hit a single prompt, which is really cool. So this one,
there we go.
We asked for an astronaut riding a horse on Mars with cinematic lighting. So here's Black Forest, there's Dolly, and there's Stability. Okay, so Black Forest.
I think I like Dolly and Black Forest the most.
Yeah, Black Forest looks the most realistic for sure. Dolly looks the most kind of like drawn, like it doesn't actually look real, but it looks, artistic. Stabilities is kind of somewhere in the middle. It's
Right.
not
Yeah.
it's not as realistic as Black Forest, but it's a bit more realistic than Dolly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah. The
Me,
dolly looks like a painting.
give me another prompt. What do we want to create?
Okay. Let me find something from my my slides. So I think I gave a talk about what is that? Web framework from the future. That
Okay.
was one of my talks. Meet the web framework from the future. So maybe a visualization of what a futuristic web framework would look like.
Web framework.
Maybe,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, let's keep it vague. Let's see what they come up. Because that's vague enough. It's not describing a scene. So I feel like all these three, they might be more different because we really tell it what to do. Okay, this reminds me of Dolly. Just kind of
I mean, we can add some more details.
Dolly also computer screen slop. Stability, a bit more interesting.
Yeah, this is vague enough.
Like when you give it a vague prompt, it always just generates Minority Report. Like, am I right? Don't these just look like Minority Report? Have you seen that film?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I've not seen the film, but yeah, I kind of the images are familiar.
It's really famous because one of the opening scenes is like Tom Cruise in front of all these like futuristic. It's like he has a screen that's like part projection, part real screen. He's like scrolling and looking at all these things, but it's like all in front of him, so it looks like stuff like this. Okay, so let's try and refine this a bit. What should we say instead?
So I have in my talk, I gave some like, okay, what would be the ideal properties of a framework, and I came up with it would be performant and efficient. It would be developer friendly. It would be minimal and extensible. Would be multi-purpose, versatile, and it would coordinate the client and server properly. I would have like an idea. The other problem is that so like the things that I talk about are like usually so abstract that it's hard to come up with images for them. Yeah. It's like if I keep giving it
like a crystal
abstract
ball
stuff. Yeah.
See, this one that gives us the slop text at top.
Right. Yeah.
And then this is an interesting image actually because it's got a flying eagle or something, and then these kind of like geometric patterns. This is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think maybe what I need to do first is find a way to like make more concrete visualizations instead of like super abstract things like web framework, performance.
Let me give you something that I do. This is something that I do. This is purely a fun exercise that me and my wife do, and we've kind of created characters for ourselves, and then we create images around different things. So I say, let's see, a female. Okay, so a cartoon female anthropomorphic porcupine and a cartoon male anthropomorphic parakeet going to a nice Italian restaurant. So we like have our own characters, and we'll basically explain the characters, and then we'll put us in some sort of scene or some sort of thing. So
yeah,
that's terrible. This is much better.
Oh,
this is
cool.
Yeah, so it's like it's super cute, right? So you got like a parakeet, you got a porcupine, and it kind of got like a thing.
It's like a Pixar movie.
This one's cool too. Yeah. So this is one of the things I generate a lot of images like this. We even created like our own kind of like storybook with narrating like the first year of our marriage like this. So yeah, so that's a fun thing that I do with ChatGPT. It's not something that's like productive. It's like literally just something that I find to be a cool way to express myself in a visual way that I could not have done without these tools, because I can't draw for crap. It's like I've been a musician, I've been a podcaster, audio editor. I've done a lot of like kind of like audio type stuff, and I've
Mm-hmm.
never been a visual person. So I really like being able to
Mm-hmm.
create this kind of stuff. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like a really fun thing that I do.
Man, I am 100% in the same boat. Like I cannot draw for shit, but like so many things that I do require or like go not they don't require visualizations, but any sort of a visual is a great reference. Um, or like a good thing to accompany whatever I'm trying to say, even if it's like not a technical diagram, even if it's just a like eye candy image, it kind of helps. So yeah, it's I think yeah, I think I do need just like the idea of characters like in kind of a story in a scene.
Hmm.
I do like that. Maybe that's a good way to kind of explain technical concepts as well. Like a parrot
Yeah, it
goes
could
to
be.
a
Yeah, if you have
soft
like characters who are working through
yeah.
something. Who about to say Socrates? Is that what you say?
No, it's like a parrot trying to build a
Parrot.
website. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
This is nice, like
Yeah.
super abstract art.
Yeah. So this I asked it to create an intricate epic DMT geometric like trip. So this
Hmm.
is like, this is the type of stuff it's
Hmm.
really good at. It's like
Hmm.
highly detailed, like
Hmm.
complex geometric type imagery. And this is cool because it's kind of
Yeah.
like a moon and it's got like some planet like stuff. So
Hmm.
this is a little bit different. So you see here like Dolly and Stability, they look almost identical. And this is
Hmm.
because they both, I think, honed in on the DMT part. So when you do
Hmm.
DMT, from what I've heard from people who've talked about it, you like
Yeah.
blast off up into like space and then see all these geometric images kind of around you. So this is what both these look like essentially. But then this is a little bit different, a little bit
Hmm.
more artistic.
Nice. Oh, looks like I got a ViewBot,
Excellent.
a ViewBot salesperson, sales bot for a ViewBot.
You know,
Yeah, this is really cool. I I definitely need to branch out of OpenAI and start using these other models more. Um, but I never thought about, hey, Claude, just generate some code for me that I can use to generate images.
totally.
I
This
love how
is
AI can feed into itself. Like if you can come up with these workflows.
Yeah, this is really how I've built out Auto Show over the
Hmm.
last year. Is that like I first used it to create the like
Hmm.
kind of MVP workflow, which by
Hmm.
now is that I first like take a
Hmm.
video, strip the audio, run transcription,
Hmm.
give it a prompt, feed the prompt the
Hmm.
transcription to the thing, which then gives you back the output. So I first just had
Hmm.
ChatGPT and Claude help me code out that initial workflow, and then every time I got a
Hmm.
new idea for a feature, what's the next thing I want to add, what's the next CLI
Hmm.
flag, I just give it back my code and then explain. Like you using Cursor also, Cursor has a chat
Hmm.
thing you do with
Yeah.
Copilot, But yeah, I'm just having so much fun just using AI to build AI and just constantly like
Hmm.
expanding my own just palette of things I can. I also do this now when I have certain repetitive
Hmm.
tasks that I want to write a script for. That in the
Hmm.
past, I didn't really have the chops to just sit down and like bang out a node script to
Yeah.
like do something like even something simple like take a bunch of
Hmm.
file names and strip out the white space and lowercase them, like something
Hmm.
like that. It can write scripts like that really, really
Hmm.
well. So as you get to more complicated, like implementing auth, it kind of chokes at,
Hmm.
but like these kind of atomic scripting like workflows
Yeah.
where you're like, I want this one thing I want it to accomplish and I want to do it
Hmm.
with Node.js and with built-in
Hmm.
modules. It's awesome at doing that. It gives you really useful scripts
Hmm.
actually if you know how to prompt it right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've been using it a bit recently with my girlfriend to like do because she is working on some like data analytics projects. So
Mhm.
like, hey, ChatGPT, give me some Python code to merge a bunch of CSV files or remove a bunch of
Yeah.
columns from it, or
Yeah,
like
that's the
do some
thing.
base.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and it's like I don't. If I had to write those scripts myself, I don't think I could because I don't understand Python that well.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
do understand it well enough that if you give me the code, I can make some tweaks to it and I can run it
Yep.
and do whatever we need
Mhm.
to. And it's been super helpful for that.
Yeah, and you
Like,
could take any
yeah.
of those scripts and say, "Write this in
Hmm.
Node.js instead of Python," and it'll do it.
Yeah.
If you start giving it more obscure
Hmm.
languages, it's gonna start choking, but,
Hmm.
it's trained on so much Python and Node
Hmm.
code, especially
Exactly.
those 2 languages in particular, that's why
Hmm.
I feel more comfortable generating lots and lots of code using
Hmm.
AI, 'cause I know it's actually trained on enough of that code that's going
Hmm.
to give you fairly robust stuff, especially if you also additionally prompt to say,
Hmm.
hey, make sure you do your error
Yeah.
handling. Just tell it to think about edge cases, and it will all of a
Hmm.
sudden think about edge cases. Little
Hmm.
stuff like that can also really improve the quality of your scripts. And doing
Hmm.
a couple back and forths, like
Hmm.
you want to explain what you want, have it give you some code, and then explain a couple things you want to tweak about it. But you want to
Hmm.
also be careful, because if you do too many back and forths, it starts to get
Hmm.
confused and you want to start a new one. So sometimes if I do that and I do a couple back and forths and I get some
Hmm.
code that I like, but I still want to change more, I will then
Hmm.
start a new session where I say, here's all this code, here's what I want to do. And this is also like, again,
Hmm.
Cursor can do all this. I'm haven't really made that switch yet to doing everything through my editor. I'm still kind of like having conversations with a chatbot and giving it code. I don't know why. I just
Hmm.
kind of like that process more. I like having to think about what I'm doing and explain it more and have
Right.
to decide what code I want to give it. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'll probably eventually make the switch and just do all this crap in Cursor.
Yeah, that's fair. I probably just need to bite the bullet and pay for Cursor at this point. I paid for some OpenAI credits. I thought I could just use those, but uh, com- is it called Composer? Like whatever is the
Yeah,
like the feature of Cursor that directly like it
yeah.
can make changes to the code. Uh,
Yeah, and that's
like
what I don't
you
do. That is also
hmm
why I think I like my workflow more, because I don't like having the
hmm
AI actually change my code. I like having it
hmm
give me code that then
yeah
I change, and then I look at the
hmm
diffs, and then I'll
yeah
run it, and I'll kinda see what happens, and then if I
hmm
get errors, I kinda feed them back
hmm
into it, because then I feel like that it keeps me
hmm
only partially vibe coding. You've heard this term
yeah
now, vibe coding, where people just have Cursor make, like, huge thousand
hmm
line changes to their code, and they're just like
hmm
praying that it
yeah
works. That is what
hmm
I do. I think that's why I haven't made the jump yet, and why I can still kind of make a
hmm
semi-coherent position for
hmm
my workflow, is that it
hmm
forces me to be more aware about the code changes
hmm
that are happening, because even though the AI is writing the code for
hmm
me, I am making the actual change in my project
hmm
in a way where I have to see the diff and do a commit and actually
hmm
have somewhat of an understanding of what it's doing.
Yeah, so actually Cursor is pretty good with that because if so when Cursor comes up with some changes to the code, like obviously you see
Mhm.
all the new code in the
Yeah.
chat window,
Mhm.
but when you hit apply, it doesn't make those changes. It shows you the diff in your editor. Like here's the old code, here's the new code that Cursor wants to apply,
Mhm.
and then you like for each section that it's trying to change, you can say that
Mhm.
okay, apply these changes like
Yeah.
in the
How many
single
people
file.
just
Yeah,
spam
you
accept?
can yeah, like
Yeah.
obviously you can keep spamming it, but it does
Yeah.
give you the ability to like every
Okay.
section
Yeah.
like look at exactly what's being changed. And I think this is one of the reasons why they're not just a VS Code extension, because you can't really
Mhm.
do that
Yeah.
like within VS Code. And I don't think Copilot can do this either right now.
Copilot
This
will
is
do it
Cursor.
on
Yeah.
individual diffs. It
Hmm.
will, when you have an error, you can say fix
Hmm.
with Copilot, and it will give you
Hmm.
a specific diff to try and address that
Hmm.
error. It's good with like simple type errors and stuff, so that
Hmm.
it does actually work fairly well for some stuff. But
Hmm.
if the error is
Hmm.
something that requires like a fix in a
Hmm.
different code file, then all of a
Hmm.
sudden it
Yeah.
craps out. And that's what Cursor does. Is Cursor is aware of your other
Yeah.
files. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you would really enjoy Cursor's
I've
Composer
used it.
because
It's
it
not that
gives
I
you the
haven't
diff.
ever used
Okay.
it. It's that
Right.
I
Okay.
haven't switched to making that my main
That's
way
fair.
of writing code. Like I've
Hmm.
tried it a couple
Yeah.
times and I
Hmm.
see the benefit of it. But
Hmm.
I'm really comfortable in my current workflow. You know how it is. You get comfortable doing
Sure.
something. It's
Yeah.
hard to switch. But I would say you need to tell your job to pay for this
Hmm.
crap. Like you're
Yeah.
employed. If they're not giving you some sort of budget for
Yeah.
tools, that's like there's no reason you should have to pay for that yourself.
Yeah. There's some like AI policies that I have to keep in mind, like um, and like
Just
where
tell them you're using
we
Olama.
yeah
They
Yeah,
wouldn't
and
make
like
sense.
we have like Google Workspace, which means our first preference is always using Gemini. Um, like even right now, we're thinking of like, okay, how do we deploy and make this available, like or like have everyone use it? And as like
Mhm.
right now, up until now, we were using OpenAI, and today we talked about, okay, we probably want to use Gemini for this because we are like on Google Workspace, and we want to make sure that we use their offerings first because we are paying for it already. Uh, and
Interesting.
and that probably means that Cursor is uh, we want to talk, we should talk about Cursor, but even like outside of that, I probably want to pay for it anyways because there's a lot of different things that like conference demos is honestly so much of my AI use cases towards conferences. Like images, I
Mhm.
want them for my conference talks.
Mhm.
Cursor, I want it so that I can quickly like build up uh, like more complicated non-trivial demos for
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
showcasing certain things around whenever I'm talking about this. So like the last talk that I gave in January, it was a pretty like it was not a simple to do app that I built for a demo, and I think most of that was generated by Cursor if I remember correctly. Yeah, and that was a pretty smooth experience. So the part where it starts shitting is if I start using Cursor for like the Solidjs code base, then it's like
A
it
large
gives me
code
like
base.
vague,
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
not necessarily even large, but something that's like very complicated. Like it's a reactivity system with a schedule with a scheduler with a renderer, and there's like a lot of different moving parts. Like it's an internals of a really
Sure.
complicated front end
And it's
framework.
probably fairly large. Like if it was all in a single
Yeah.
file, how many lines of
Mhm.
codes do you think? How many lines of code do you think it would be?
So I think I'm talking about the Solid 2.0 code base, which is like relatively small right now. Like it's only the reactivity system. There's the render is not in there. There's no server side rendering. Like actually, there's no rendering at all. So it's probably 1,000, 2,000 maybe.
Okay. That's actually pretty small then. That's impressive. But I would say,
Yeah,
yeah, once you get
but
to
without
multiple
dependencies.
thousands of lines of code is when it
Mhm.
starts to crap out.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'll need
That's
to look
incredible.
at how
Solid is
long that
only
is.
2,000 lines of code. I had to go read through that code
It
base.
might be more than that. Yeah, it's also again like it's very it's experimental. The new version, the current version is probably much bigger than that.
Mhm.
Uh, but Ryan, like optimizing bundle size is something that most front end frameworks now take a lot of put a lot of effort into. It's probably more than a couple thousand. Yeah, I'm. But yeah, actually, yeah. Tell me more about AutoShare. How's that going?
It's good. It's well, I'm kind of stuck in the auth weeds right now. Um, so
Just use Clerk.
that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, so I'll be totally honest. I have never actually implemented like auth in
Hmm.
a serious app before, like beginning to end. So it's
Hmm.
something I've either worked on apps that already had it, or
Hmm.
some stupid simple demo app in like
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
boot camp, which is like not even real auth because no one will ever just like store your username and a password in a
Hmm.
database and then read it because that's like
Yeah.
tell, So yeah, I think I just need to. So I guess I have one question for you that would
Sure.
really help me out if you could answer this.
Hmm.
Is that I'm working with a Postgres database where the only
Hmm.
thing you have is just your show notes object
Hmm.
that has a bunch of different fields with text. That's all it is.
Hmm.
It's very simple. So
Hmm.
do I want a separate user model that
Hmm.
references the show notes, or do I want each show note to have a single user ID field
Hmm.
that associates each show note with the
Yeah,
user?
definitely the second one.
Okay. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what as I was
Hmm.
kind of working this out, the docs
Hmm.
that I was looking at and how Claude was kind of,
Hmm.
it seems like it was that. And that's
Hmm.
actually good because that's a lot simpler than what I
Hmm.
thought I was going to have to
Yes.
do, which is have a user model with relations.
Hmm.
So I don't need to do that, is what you're saying.
Yeah. No, the user object should like you can think of it like this. The user object should not know about what the rest of your application does. That's like that's like the best way to keep it like simple and isolated in its own thing.
Okay.
and just have everything else like refer to a user ID. I mean that's basically how providers like Clerk work, because like they don't know that you're doing show notes.
Mhm.
Instead,
Yeah.
you have show notes that says user ID. It's just that the user ID belongs within the Clerk database instead of your own database. So that's like a good way to like isolate them from each other.
Okay. Yeah, and we also talked about this just a little bit last time you were on. I have
Mhm.
the way my current app is set up, it's
Mhm.
a Fastify server and an
Mhm.
Astro app that is hitting the server.
Mhm.
And you're saying I should implement auth on the front end, not the back end. I should have the Astro part be
Mhm.
aware of a user, and
Mhm.
then the server doesn't really need to do the
Mhm.
auth, is what kind of you were saying last time.
If your Fastify server is like not exposed to like the public internet, then yeah, it
Mhm.
doesn't need to have an auth. Like if you run it, um, like where do you are you just running it locally right now? Are you deploying it somewhere?
Is yeah, so I have the back end is deployed, the front end is
Hmm.
not. So that's I figured
Okay.
out how to get the back end deployed as
Hmm.
a Docker container on
Hmm.
Railway, and it is
Hmm.
just exposed to the internet.
Right.
And the way I kind
Hmm.
of locked it down is that it doesn't have the API keys for things like
Hmm.
OpenAI and stuff like that. So that's some other kind
Okay.
of higher level things I still need to figure out.
Right.
But in terms of having
Hmm.
a user session that is
Hmm.
logged in, it interacts with that back end.
Hmm.
That is something that should happen
Hmm.
on the front end,
Yeah.
not the back end.
So the backend should definitely have some sort of auth, either
Okay.
like either the backend has the username, password auth, whatever you're building, or just an API key that
Mhm.
like any request to the backend needs this API key, and if the API key is
Okay.
incorrect, then it
So
gets
a
rejected straight away,
JWT
right?
would be one way to do this, right?
The API key, you mean?
A JWT
Right.
in terms of having the specific user
Right.
session.
For the user session, JWTs would be a good idea, but
Mm,
probably what's like the front end is probably a better place for the user auth to live, and then the back
mhm.
end is just like a simple API key, like
Okay.
it's like just a random string, and if it
Mhm.
doesn't have the correct API key, then it gets rejected. That's probably the
Okay.
simplest way to do auth on the API side, and then on the Astro side, you would have uh, like your actual user management. uh, And once the user is logged in, then you can make the request to your backend with the correct API key. So
Yep.
your user auth lives in the front end, and your backend is just a simple API key. That would
Okay.
be an ideal way to, or yeah, that would be how I'd approach it. But I'd also like probably just eliminate the backend and do everything in Astro in the first place. Uh, and
Yeah.
yeah, if you have,
Honestly, yeah, that's part of
mm-hmm,
I've hesitated to do that, and I did a
mm-hmm,
quick run through of trying to migrate the whole
mm-hmm,
thing to Solid Start actually, and
mm-hmm,
got pretty far. I got most of the backend ported to Solid
mm-hmm,
Start, so I'm kind of at this point now where I'm like, do I want to stick with my current stack
mm-hmm,
and make Clerk work with the current stack, or do I want to
mm-hmm,
rewrite it in a meta
mm-hmm,
framework that has a backend built
mm-hmm,
in, like Astro or Solid Start or something like that? So that's kind of
mm-hmm,
a more important question that I need to
yeah,
answer first, because I
mm-hmm,
can make it work in its current thing, but as you're saying, I think what I
mm-hmm,
really want is I want a meta framework. I want a full stack meta
mm-hmm,
framework. Like obviously, like
yeah,
of course I would want a full stack meta framework.
yeah. I mean, it looks like there's, yeah, Clerk has an Astro SDK. It has
It
an
has an Astro
unofficial Solid
SDK
Start
and a
SDK as well.
Fastify. It has an integration of Fastify
Yeah.
and Astro, but this was the
Hmm.
problem is I don't want to use two
Hmm.
of their integrations. That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. I want one
Hmm.
integration that actually works throughout my whole product, and that's why what I
Hmm.
was trying to do was really complicated because they have a
Hmm.
Fastify thing and they have an Astro thing. It
Hmm.
doesn't really make sense for me to use both of them.
I mean, you could use both of them as well. It,
But it's a lot more complicated.
yeah.
Yeah.
Would it? I think. I mean, it would be a little. It would be a little more complicated, but it would also be like it there's probably like an like I want to say future proof, but it's like such a weird, such a taboo thing to say these days. Like, why are you future? Why are you caring so much about the future? Just like
No, I care about the future.
do
So
simple things right now.
what makes that more future-proof than just having a single? Because I would assume that just using
Yeah.
a single clerk
Mhm.
plugin would be easier than having to have
Mhm.
two that speak to each other.
Yeah. The thing is, your backend is probably very, like, eventually you might want to do things like credits. Like, does a user
Mhm.
have enough credits to make this request, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be the next thing I need to
Mhm.
figure out. As soon as I get the
Yeah.
login figured out, I then
Mhm.
need to have the payment
Yeah.
system, the credit system. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like, do you want people to access the API separately from, like, outside of your front end, or like, should it only be like you go through the front end, that's it, you don't access it through the API directly?
Yeah, I mean it's always going to be some
Mhm.
amount of the app is going to be available as an open source thing if someone wants to like
Mhm.
create their own version of the backend and host it themselves.
Mhm.
But the actual
Mhm.
back, I'm not exposing an API. I'm not going to have an API docs. Like it's going to be
Mhm. Okay.
it's going to be an app that people use.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then you can skip the Fastify stuff. Then you can just like have a
Okay.
very simple API key
Okay. Cool.
for for accessing the backend. Yeah, and then
Mhm.
do all the user management on the front end.
All right. That's super helpful. Thank you for running through
Mhm.
that with me.
Of
I had
course.
that in the back of my head as something I wanted to ask you about. So I'm really glad we hit that. But
Always happy to talk about art.
yeah, for sure. I really want. I'm not going to ask you about because you already said you can't say more. I really want to know about the AI app you're building. We can talk about it more off
Mhm.
stream, but that's just
Mhm.
kind of where my mind went. But is there anything else
Sure.
you want
Yeah.
to talk about? Either like Solid or your own streaming. You just did a stream not too long ago. What did
Mhm.
you do?
So my stream, I think, I was, oh yeah, TanStack router now to support Solid.js, and eventually TanStack Start
Oh,
is also
cool.
going to support Solid.js. That's been like one of the big pieces of news from last week. So yeah, my stream was taking the you might remember from, I don't, actually no, last year you weren't kind of around, but last year there was kind of a Trello clone hype, thanks to Ryan Florence, who built like a Trello clone using
Huh.
Remix and showed like a bunch of nice optimistic updates, features, form actions, things like that,
That's
and then a
actually
bunch
pretty
of other
funny.
communities.
You're you're
Yeah.
correct. I did miss that, and I actually was building a Trello clone at the exact same time, completely unrelated.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, a bunch of different framework authors or like communities. They were trying to or yeah, trying to build like a similar demo, show similar features from their framework. Obviously, like Solid Start community built one. It so we built our own actually a while after the hype happened. It took us a while, but what I was doing in my stream last week was taking that demo and building that with TanStack router instead of Solid Start. Uh,
Mm,
that was one part, and then the other part was recording my video on server components. So last year, or 2 years ago, yeah, 2023, I made a video on why I am excited about React server components.
mhm.
uh, right now I'm working on a video why I am no longer excited about React server components. So that's the video that I was recording on stream.
I feel like React Server Components is like the 5 stages of grief with people. I swear to God.
Very much, yes.
Yeah.
Like, even like Theo right now, he's in the process of like moving completely off server components for Theory chat. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's that trajectory. Like, there's just like different people are at different points in that trajectory. Um,
Mhm.
Even like people like Ryan Carniado, Ryan Florence, they have been through that trajectory and reached the point where they're no longer super excited about it. I am
Mhm.
slightly behind them. Theo is a little more behind them because for a while he was paid. Uh,
Okay. Well, I can say
and
I stopped being excited about this in 2023 because I was excited about it in 2021. So
man,
once again, ahead of the game.
for sure,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I think Redwood is still all. It feels like it's all in on server components. I don't know where
Well,
that's going
yeah,
exactly.
that's one of the reasons I kind of fell out. It's
Hmm.
not the reason, but there were many
Hmm.
reasons I kind of stopped being as involved with
Hmm.
Redwood. And it was partly because they kept picking up all these React trends 2 years too late. So I was like, guys, I was telling you about React Server Components in 2021. Now you're doing 2024, and you're way behind the curve. Why didn't you listen to
Yeah,
me?
yeah, and Yeah, Shopify was probably the first ones to go through the entire curve and then come out the other side, and that, you know what, we're just gonna
And
use Remix.
Hydrogen, I was the first
Yeah.
person to get Josh from Hydrogen on a podcast talking about Hydrogen FS Jam, first ever podcast interview about Hydrogen, because I was paying
Nice.
so close attention to React server components. But yeah, I'll stop bragging. But
Yes,
the
yeah. I guess be on the watch out for that video this later this week.
Yeah. The last thing I was gonna tell you, I'm almost done with Ryan GPT. Remember we talked about
We
using
need that
auto
so much.
show to do all of
Yeah.
the Ryan streams. It's
Yes.
taken me like almost a month because it's like 100
Damn.
episodes that are each 5 hours, so it's like 500
Yeah.
hours worth of stuff to transcribe. I'm
hmm
almost done, and I've done some
Nice.
initial kind of like embeddings generations and then asking it
hmm
questions to see kind of what stuff it
hmm
spits out. It's pretty cool. So
hmm
once I'm done with all
Yeah.
his episodes and I have embeddings created for all of it, I'm gonna drop it in
hmm
the Solid Discord and be like, here,
Nice.
now you can chat with the Ryan Oracle.
Yes, please, and make sure you tag me because I don't often pay attention to a lot of the channels in the Discord, and I really
Yeah,
want
will
to see
do.
this.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I'm very excited about it. It's one of the reasons why I was
Yeah.
thinking about porting Solid Auto Show
hmm
to Solid entirely, because I would be like, here's the Ryan GPT and
hmm
here's the tool I used to create it, which is in Solid.
Yeah.
I didn't quite get there, but I might
Mhm.
go back and try again. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to like find some time and pair on it, I would love to do that.
Cool. Yeah, no, I like that'll be super fun.
Mhm.
So we'll
I was
see what
curious about like a lot of Ryan streams, like he brings on a guest.
yeah.
It like does like in the transcript, like does it show that this is Ryan talking or there's someone else talking?
So the way AutoShow is set up, you can
Mhm.
use DeepGram or Assembly AI to
Mhm.
get speaker labels. You have to use an API key, so it
Right.
costs a couple dollars. But
Mhm.
the way I have it done in Whisper is it just gives
Mhm.
you the straight text. Now I will say that when you get a 5-hour
Mhm.
transcript and a chunk, even if the speakers are not identified, because you're giving it to an LLM, it kind of figures it out actually
Okay.
in a pretty good.
Nice.
It can tell there's multiple speakers. Usually, if there's more than two
Mhm.
people, it can get confused, like
Mhm.
who's saying what when.
Yeah.
If there's just two speakers, it will be able to
Mhm.
tell just by reading the text when one
Right.
person is saying something versus another,
Mhm.
which is incredible. Actually, this is one of the first
Nice.
things I discovered by using Whispers, that you didn't need the speaker labels if you were going to throw the
Right.
transcript out at the end.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, if it can do that, and if it can do that like across all of the like across
It will know
um
who Ryan
all the
is across
streams.
all of them.
Mhm.
It won't be able to give
Perfect.
you the
Yeah.
fine grain,
Mhm.
like this specific guest said
Yeah.
this thing in this
Mhm.
episode.
Mhm.
Although it would probably, if because I also give it the front matter, it can read
Mhm.
titles. So if the
Mhm.
guest's name is in the title,
Yeah.
it would then have that
Usually is.
information.
Yeah.
Or if Ryan is saying the person's name multiple times, like it just can tell things by context.
Mhm.
So if there's more context, if Ryan happens to
Mhm.
say his name a couple times and Ryan never says the guest's name, then it will
Mhm.
never know who that guest is.
Yeah.
Is really kind of comes
Yeah.
down to that.
Yeah. Now, Ryan usually does like a proper introduction of like, this is why this person is here. This is who we are going to bring on. Or like,
Yeah.
okay, it's time to bring on Anthony Campolo, and then
Yeah.
so
This
I
is
think
why
the
he's so
context is going to be
perfect
pretty
for Ryan
solid.
GPT.
Yeah, he's literally just prompting on his stream like every single thing. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
That's
Let's
awesome. I'm
hit the
looking forward to
guests.
it.
Hit the viewers with your Twitter or wherever you want to draw people. Maybe your YouTube.
Yeah, Twitter's probably the best. I tried using Blue Sky for a little bit here and there. Not great results. So I'm now back full time on Twitter.
Makes me happy to hear. Yeah, I've got a Blue Sky, but for me, it's hard for me to migrate. I've got so much. I've built a lot of time on the tweets.
There.
Cool. All right. Dev Agarwal 09. Is that when you? What is 09? Remind me. I forget.
That's my date of birth. It's the 9th May.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
been my username. That's been
no,
my username for like 15 years.
no, that's cool. Yeah, I used to have a Campolo 5 because when I
Hmm.
first made an email, it was
Hmm.
Anthony5555 because we had my dad's like, "What's your favorite number?" And
Hmm.
I was like 5. I don't know why
Yeah.
5 was my favorite number, but then Anthony 5 was taken, Anthony five
Hmm.
five was taken, 555. So we got to 55555. So I used to have a Campolo 5 was my.
Hmm.
I still do have that Gmail, even though I've spent 2 years trying to migrate from it. But I know how that is, having a random number for no freaking
Hmm.
reason.
Yeah, my earliest days on the internet, I was like creating an email account, and I chose. I think at that time Rediff Mail was popular.
Mm.
That's where I created my first email, and it was this. Yeah, this. They were girl09 at rediffmail.com was my very first one. I don't have access to that anymore. Someone in high school decided or found out a way, like some loopholes that allowed them access to my account, and then they changed everything, and my Facebook was linked to it, so they also changed everything on my Facebook, and then I lost access to both.
Oh no, I've never been hacked like that. That's probably traumatizing, I would imagine.
I don't know. It used, yeah, probably a little bit, but it happened to a
It's
lot of
like
people,
you feel like you've
and
been violated.
yeah, it's fine. I've done a decent bit of that myself, so can't really be too traumatized with that. So yeah, my friend and I, we went in our high school like computer lab in our school. We installed keyloggers in every computer. So if
Wow, that's
anyone
next
like,
level.
yeah, if anyone went in there, logged into their Facebook account, we had their credentials.
Yikes. That's incredible. It's like it doesn't surprise that you can pull that off because who's gonna be in charge of security at a random school, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much.
yeah, that's fun. All right, man. Let's call it here. Just stay on
Hmm.
after we end the stream so we can book another time, hopefully.
Hmm.
And yeah, man, always love streaming with you. Super fun. Anything you want to say before we close out?
Yeah. Be on the lookout for my video on why server components absolutely suck and you should never use them. No, that's not what it's called, but that.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. All right.
Bye, chat.
Later, everyone.